Welcome to So Good Saturday. It is August, So Good Saturday. I'm Mitchell Provençal, I'm the Senior Program Coordinator. What we have going on today is I'm going to do a presentation about cover crops, how to keep your garden soil healthy. We're going to do a little demo out in the field. We have a mature cover crop that I want y'all to see. I'm going to show you how to get to terminate it in your home garden. This bin is full of cover crop seeds that you can take home, so you can try this in your own garden. And then if we have time, we can actually plant some seeds out in one of the beds here. We also have Chef Stacy, who cooked with some produce. She cooked sweet potato greens, hibiscus greens, and okra, and made pepper jelly with peppers from the farm. We have a ton of produce to give away, basil plants, milkweed, tons of seeds, and then we have Bryce, Flow with Mo, is going to come do yoga as well. And we have our artist, Morgan Uda, is going to be doing some paper making. Yeah, lots to do today. So, has anyone done cover cropping before in their home garden? Okay, we got one person. Okay. Can you tell me, or should I just talk and not ask questions?
Just talk.
Okay. All right, so cover cropping is a way to keep your soil healthy. It is not a crop that we harvest and like you're gonna necessarily get food from, but you can do it in between seasons to like enhance nutrients in your soil. And one way we've been really using it is to grow mulch in place, okay? So it's not standard crops that, well, some of it is crops that you can find just at the normal garden center, but this time of year when it's like super hot, we're not putting fall crops in the ground yet, we're just like prepping the land, is now where we're putting cover crops out. So then by like end of September, when it's starting to cool down, we can cut down the cover crop and put our next crop in, okay? So cover crops are non-harvested crops that improve soil and benefit the next planting of vegetables. I didn't finish that sentence. But there's a wide range of benefits if you look at this little image. It could add nitrogen to the soil depending on what cover crop you use. Nitrogen is in every bag of fertilizer that you buy, and it's really abundant in the atmosphere. Some plants suck it up from the atmosphere and pump it into the ground, and then your next crops can use that nitrogen. So you don't have to go buy nitrogen fertilizer. You can use these plants to add it to the soil for you. All the cover crops, they grow really quickly. So if you have bare soil, you put the cover crop seeds out, they'll grow quick, and other weed seeds don't have time to germinate and take over. So these crops can take over, stop out any weed seeds. So they will suppress weeds. They can suppress nematodes, which are little microscopic worms that can eat your roots. It can increase water filtration because there's a ton more roots in the soil, like water can easily filtrate. If you have problems with runoff in your garden, doing a cover crop can help that. It can reduce erosion because rain is not hitting bare soil, it's hitting these leaves first. So if you have problems with erosion in your garden. If you have really clay soil or like compact soil, cover crops can help with that. The roots of these plants are super strong and they can break up like hard clay soils. They can attract beneficial insects, which will eat some of the bad insects. They cycle nutrients. So if you just leave your garden bare and it's raining and water is washing stuff away, that's nutrients that are being washed away from your garden. If you have these plants growing, they are holding the nutrients in their leaves until they die off and those nutrients are cycled back to the next generation of plants. It can increase soil aggregation, which is like the texture of your soil. And it adds organic matter, which is super important. You always want to be adding organic matter to your soil, which can be done with mulches, cover crops, compost, anything to be adding like decaying material back to your soil. There's microbes and fungi and all these microscopic creatures that need stuff to eat or they're gonna die off, and they're the ones that are like feeding the soil and feeding your plants. So there's 3 types of categories that you wanna think about. There's like cereals, which is like the rye, oats, barley / grasses. These things are gonna grow really tall, really lush, so when you mow it down, you have a really good mulch on top of the soil. So that's gonna suppress weeds for the next season. Legumes, those are the ones that add nitrogen to the soil. So they take up nitrogen from the air, pump it into the soil. Clover, I don't really grow a lot of vetch because it's hard to kill in the winter. Or like our freezes aren't hard enough to kill it and it can become
And what's that?
vetch, hairy vetch.
Vetch?
Yeah, it's a legume. You'll see it pop everywhere. It's like it has like fern-like leaves and it kind of goes like a vine. It has like really pretty purple flowers. If I had some, I mean, it grows in the cooler.
Directly at the tip, on the leaves?
I'm not
You know what I'm thinking of?
Thistle, no. This is like a little vine. And then peas, so like sugar snap peas, all those things are adding nitrogen to the soil. They like cooler weather. And then broadleaf, these are just like normal plants like buckwheat, which you can grow and you can harvest and eat buckwheat if you want to ground your own buckwheat or make cereal with it. Buckwheat, I grow in the warm and the cool season. It will die in a frost, but it grows really, really quick. It flowers quickly. Beneficial insects love it, so you'll get really good bugs that'll come and like it'll be a little habitat for that. And it's really easy to kill. You want to think about how you're going to terminate these cover crops because we grow this sorghum Sudan grass, and like even if you mow it and there's still like a stump left, the next week it's going to be sending out a new shoot. Like this can be really, really aggressive, but it grows really fast. It makes a lot of biomass, so it makes a really good mulch. But I'll talk about terminating in a second. So, yeah, buckwheat will die in the frost. Also, brassicas like broccoli and mustards are really, really good too. So yeah, if you want to grow a ton of broccoli, you can eat the leaves and stuff and still have it as a cover crop. People use mustard to kill like bad pathogens in the soil, and if you have soil nematodes, essentially you're like mustard gassing your soil. So if you just put a ton of mustard seed out there, you can chop it down and like put a tarp over it, and as those mustard leaves break down, it's called biofumigation. It'll like, the toxins from the mustards will like kill off stuff in the soil, which sounds kind of crazy. But, and then there's also radishes, like daikon, daikon radishes, like those big Asian radishes. They call them tillage radishes because it'll like dig down into the soil. So if you have hard clay, and then you can harvest those too. People make kimchi and stuff out of them, but it'll make these huge holes in your soil and like it'll break up all that compaction. What you're supposed to do is let it rot and like all that radish just like decays back into the soil and feeds the next crop, and then like water can filter in, air can filter in.
You would cut the tops off?
Yeah, you would mow it down. Okay, warm season is what you're gonna get to see today. So we have the sorghum Sudan grass, creates a lot of biomass. It can be tricky to kill. We use tarp, so like I'll mow it down and then put a tarp over it for 2 weeks, and that really assures that it's gonna die off. If you do grow it, and you mow it, or like you can mow it before it gets out of control and just keep mowing it every other week, and you'll just keep adding like layers and layers of mulch until it freezes. This will die in the freeze. Yeah, so sorghum Sudan grass, pretty intense, but it makes a really great mulch. Broadleaf, I have the buckwheat again. So this is the buckwheat. Sorry, it's a little wilting, but it always flowers like really, really quickly. And when we go over there, like you'll see bees and like wasps and other pollinators like all over this. I believe that buckwheat, they call it a scavenger, or it mines for phosphorus in the soil. So if you get your soil test and you see that you're really low in phosphorus, you can plant just like a mat of buckwheat. It's gonna find phosphorus, you chop it down, and all that phosphorus is like in the plant and it'll cycle back into the next.
But you got to make sure it doesn't go to seed first.
Yeah, and honestly, this has gone to seed. It's just so easy to kill. Like this hasn't gotten out of hand for me.
Okay.
The buckwheat's not that bad. And then if it does pop up next to my crop, I mean, it's just like this one little stalk, you know? So You know, it'll track some good bugs, and I can just pull it out if I want to. But yes, it will see. We're gonna go terminate today, but this is just now flowering. There's no mature seeds on here, so we're still catching it at a good time. And then next are legumes, which are the ones that add nitrogen. This is sun hemp. And what I want to show y'all is whenever you're growing like beans, peas, anything that's like in the legume family, I want y'all to come see these roots. If you look on the roots, if you pull the plant up, you'll see these little nodules down here, like those little balls. Okay, those are the nitrogen, like that's how you know the plant is fixing nitrogen, when you see these little bulbs on there. If you break them off and you open it up, it has like a pinkish color. If I can see that. That means there's like active nitrogen in there. So if you want to make sure that, like, I always check it before we terminate it to make sure that it's like putting nitrogen in the ground before I kill it off, because maybe it's not mature enough, but you can tell when nitrogen is being pumped into your soil when these things are orange. And if you pull it up and these aren't on there yet, then the plant's not mature enough. So beans, peas, anything that's in the legume family, you can pull it up and you can find those little nodules. Okay. So cool season, I would start to plant around October through March. Just remember that things grow slower in the cooler months. So like December, January, the crop's gonna go really slow. Once it starts to warm up, it'll really take off. And you can mow it down and plant your spring crops. In the summer, like we'll plant it and like a few days later, it's popping up. 60 days, we're mowing it down and like we're done with it. So y'all can take seeds home today, plant them this weekend, and then by end of September, like you can cut it down and start to plant your next crop. Yeah, any questions about cool versus warm season?
What kind of seeds are those again?
So what I have in here is a mix. It's the Sudan grass, buckwheat, sun hemp, and I have sunflower in there as well.
I have another question, but it's not to do with the cover crops. On tomatoes, the sucker, which leaf is considered as the sucker? The one that comes out where it's flowering at?
So I would say like, here's your main stem, you have a leaf. The ones that are coming at this like 45-degree angle,
Okay.
those are the suckers.
Those are the suckers. Okay. And another question: if your citrus plant is starting to produce thorns, should you cut that off? And is that a bad sign, like my plant's going to die?
Nope, so all citrus trees are grafted onto a rootstock. So it's a wild native citrus called trifoliate. And so it's really disease resistant to like diseases in the soil because it's like native here. So they'll take the citrus that they want. Well, they'll grow both. They'll cut the root off of the trifoliate. They'll cut the top off of whatever orange you have, and they'll graft them together, like tape it in, it'll heal together. So when you see the thorns, that's that rootstock trying to grow out. So you just have to keep pruning it back. Now, if you have a lemon tree, some lemons have thorns. Is it a lemon?
Okay. So that doesn't mean it's going to die.
No, but the rootstock will eventually totally take over. So you have to keep, like each year we go and just like clip them at the base. Okay, the last thing for the cover crop is how are you going to terminate it? We have a flail mower that chops it and just drops it right in place. It's a fancy machine, it's connected to our tiller. Not everybody has that. You can easily run your lawnmower over it with the bag and then just take what's in the bag and just sprinkle it back over your bed. In some of our raised beds, we've just used shears and just cut it right at the base and just like lay it flat. We've also made this handy dandy tool that we are going to go demonstrate. So you can crimp The stems, which is just essentially just snapping it, and then the plant can't take up water or nutrients, so it's just gonna die off.